Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. This is Palmer College of Chiropractic Spinal tutorial. We're going to be on page 20 of Mr. Mortar's 16th edition. We'll be talking about the IVF and its boundaries. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the picture on page 20. I went and go ahead and put a spinal nerve in there just for this example, T3. So we'll start off with the T3 vertebra above and the T4 vertebra below. Okay, those would be part of the anterior boundaries. Another ligament we're going to put on here, while it's not a part of the boundaries of the IVF, the anterior longitudinal ligament is going to run anterior to the vertebral body. Just go ahead and put it in now in red. Next is going to be our posterior longitudinal ligament. It's going to run behind the body here, along the disc, and continue downwards, just like the ALL. Do note that it's running behind the pedicle here, but for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to draw that in. Next is going to be the intervertebral disc. It's a nice and easy one right between the vertebral bodies, right? The next ligament is going to be the ligamentum flavum, which connects our lamina to lamina, part of the posterior boundaries of the IVF, right? Again, it would connect down here as well to the next segment and above as well. Next, we're going to draw in the pre-zygapophysis. So if you start at the spinal nerve and work posterior, the first facet or process that you run into is going to be the superior articular facet, or the pre-zygapophysis. Above it, go ahead and draw that in up here as well. It's going to be the process, and the flat part is going to be the facet. So know this whole part is the process. The inferior articular process, or the post-zygapophysis joint, is going to be right here. Okay. This whole process there. And an easy way to remember this, the pre and the post-zygapophysis, is that inferior people come after or posterior to superior people. Okay. Next thing we're going to draw in is the capsular ligament. A lot of times this is just drawn at the anterior and the posterior of the zygapophysis joint, but know that this guy is going to run all the way around, okay, 360 to this facet, and as well on the other side, right? So without the capsular ligament, all of our synovial fluid would be lost. So we're going to go ahead and have that run all the way around. Sometimes it's just drawn a couple different ways. The next border of the IVF we're going to draw in is the inferior vertebral notch. And this is kind of confusing for some because it's at the superior boundary of the IVF, but it's named for its position on the pedicle. So it's on the inferior pedicle, thus the inferior vertebral notch, okay? Next, we're going to label the superior vertebral notch, which is, coincidentally, the inferior border of the vertebral IVF, excuse me. So I think that wraps up the boundaries in the book. For a couple additional points, we're just going to mark in the interspinous ligament, the supraspinous ligament out here. Note that this is the transverse process, as well as the transverse costal facet, where the rib articulates. These marks on the left here are demifacets, which we'll learn about more, with the articulation with the rib. And as well, with all these borders of the IVF, we'll be able to know the anterior boundaries from the posterior, superior and inferior, etc., but also be able to identify the hard tissues from the soft. Which of the anterior boundaries are bone or osseous structures, which of the posterior osseous, etc. So if you have any questions on that, let me know, and I hope this helped you.